Sorry, I was on mute. Hello, hello, everyone. I hope you are doing well and having a great day. As usual, we are back with our weekly session. And of course, if you attended the session last week, you had the opportunity to attend the session provided by Arindam. And we have Arindam this week again with us. I want to, first of all, welcome Arindam. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, Hugo. I mean, like, really much appreciated again, accepting my session and inviting me to your forum. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure for us to have you here. And as always, I just want to highlight that, as we say, everyone is welcome to contribute to this group and deliver the session. So whatever topic you feel comfortable and you think that it's relevant to the community, you are more than welcome to use our call for speakers page, submit your topic, and someone of the team will contact you to approve and manage everything and schedule everything. But for today, we have a great session about a topic that I believe it's really interesting when it comes to talk about container apps and also, of course, hosting those apps in Azure. Then you probably will be using Azure Container Registry, and consequently, Arindam will explain all we need to learn about using Azure Container Registry and also how to manage this from the perspective of Azure DevOps and so on. If Arindam is happy, I will hand over to you, and I'll be here in the backstage if you need anything.
Absolutely, Hugo. Let's begin.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so before I jump into my topic, which is Azure Container Registry and how you can scan your images with Aquasec Trivy. And once you scan the images, there is like, and I'm publishing the report in the storage account. If a security officer of your organization wants to review the vulnerabilities which has been detected by Trivy by scanning the base images, so that is why we store the images. But before we jump into the whole topic, and I will also be showing you a live demo of everything what I did over Azure DevOps, as Hugo mentioned. A little bit about myself. So this is my GitHub profile. My name is Arindam Mitra, as Hugo mentioned, and I am a cloud solutions and DevOps architect. I'm also a technical blogger and speaker who's focused mainly on cloud adoption, architecture, automation, build, and run in Azure. You can follow me in my blog. I typically blog on Azure DevOps. I like coding, infrastructure as code, Terraform, PowerShell, Azure CLI. Um, I'm also like, jumped into biceps in recent days, Azure DevOps, and of course GitHub Actions. So, everything is mentioned in my blog. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Sessionize. This is of course, my GitHub and also my Facebook. If you want to get connected with me, this is my Yahoo and Gmail ID. Feel free to write to me if you have any use cases. If you want to discuss something with me, happy to support to the best of my knowledge. This is a little bit stats about myself that, overall, I started blogging, about DevOps and everything, close to 6 months now, and I have published 20 blogs. I have uh, I've spoken 11 times in different forums, and I have now supported with Cloud Lunch and Learn. It's been 7 communities, and all those communities are mentioned out here. And this is a little bit about my GitHub stats and everything. As I mentioned, this is my LinkedIn profile. Feel free to connect with me if you like my presentation, if you like my blogs. Feel free to connect with me. This is a little bit. This is about my Twitter profile. I normally tweet on my blogs, or if I find something useful, which is useful for dev community, I normally tweet about those. This is my Sessionize, my speaker profile. This I keep very much updated because I need to apply to all the forums similar to Cloud Lunch and Learn, and if they feel that the topic is good enough and it would be enriching for all the dev communities out there, and they normally invite me. Apart from this, if I go here, this is my blog, but this is the whole dashboard. So you see that I have all my blogs out here, which I write in dev.to. And today's topic, which I'm going to present today is uh, DevOps, Azure Container Registry, and Trivy. So a little bit about this topic, why I chose to write and why I chose to automate this. You can also do this with Azure Defender. In Azure Defender, there is also a possibility that uh, you can see that what are the vulnerabilities and everything which is coming up. But I chose that okay, Azure Defender is there anything else with which I can do it? And I really found this tool, which is the company is Aquasec, and the product name is Trivy. So Trivy allows me to scan my base images, which I'm downloading from Docker Hub, and then I'm coupling my application, building it up, and then I'm pushing it to my ACR. But normally, what happens is when I'm building this whole image and pushing it to the ACR, uh, I've done that. So in order for building any container native application, be it like Docker on web app or container apps or Kubernetes, the source of truth is always Azure Container Registry, which means that my Azure Container Registry, which I call my source of truth, that has to be uh, that has to be secure. There should not be any vulnerabilities, and I have to take care that my base image is not exposed, vulnerable, and my security officer is comfortable with this. So that is why I thought that okay, how to automate this whole process and how to make sure that if there is any vulnerabilities detected, how we can ignore it, and if we are not ignoring it, how we are storing it in the storage account as a report format so that my CISO or my security officer can have a look, and then we can have a kind of a negotiation that okay, which to address and which not to, which to ignore, basically, uh, as highlighting it as a low risk. So this is what I'm going to explain you. So as you can see that I have already spoken on this topic in two other communities. One was in Switzerland, another is Pakistan community. I have just put together some snippets, the experience which I had with them, and scrolling down. So this is basically the requirement. You need, of course, an Azure Container Registry to push your images. You need a storage account to store the reports, which I'm going to publish. I need since I'm running it as a YAML pipeline, I need a DevOps service connection. So that is there. I also need a Docker registry service connection because I'm pushing the image to my ACR, and that needs a service connection, a Docker registry service connection. Um, um, Here, what I'm doing is I am basically I have a sample HTML file, and I'm downloading one Nginx image, which I know is vulnerable. And what I'm doing is with the Docker file, I'm integrating my HTML file into my Docker image, bundling up packaging, and then I'm pushing it to my ACR. That is what I'm doing. So that is why Docker file is required. Sample HTML file is like it's just a plain HTML file. And the pipeline which I'm using, of course, is YAML. And last is the Trivy ignore file. So I'll come to the Trivy ignore file a little bit later because this is a very, very cool thing which I found when I was automating the whole process. I'll come back to this in a little bit later because it's really interesting. So what my pipeline task does, it's very simple. It will build and push the image in ACR. Then what it will do is I am assuming that it can happen that you are having a self-hosted agent and you already have the Trivy installer already installed. So maybe you can skip this, but I'm assuming that when my pipeline is running, there is no installer, Trivy installer in my build agent. So what I'm doing is I'm just downloading and installing the Aquasec Trivy installer in my build agent because I'm using the Microsoft hosted build agent. So I'm using step 2 like that. But the other alternative is that it may happen that in your production environment, you have a self-hosted build agent, be it virtual machine, it can be container apps, it can be Kubernetes, it can be anything. And maybe that you already have the Aquasec Trivy installer installed already. So maybe you can skip that step. Okay. Then what I'm doing is once the installer is available, Trivy is available, the Trivy runtime is then scanning the base image and copying the scanned results and artifact staging directory. Again, it's a principle of DevOps that if you want to if you want to pull out information from your build agent and then store it into one of the services like storage account, the first and the basic step is that anything which you do, you have to first put it in the artifact staging directory of DevOps. Once you do that, then the next logical step is publishing it as an artifact, because once you publish it, then you can download the published artifact. And once you download it, then you can make a copy to the blob storage container. And when I'm doing this, I'm making sure that it is creating a folder uh, with a date timestamp. So it is basically a folder, and inside with a date and timestamp, and then inside that, you're publishing you're basically copying the reports from the published artifacts. So this is how I'm doing it. Now, as I said, I'll come a little bit later. So what does the Trivy ignore file does? Similar to the naming convention is itself is a self-explanatory, like git ignore. So the things which we don't want to commit to git, we put it in git ignore. It's a similar thing. So maybe that in past you have run the you have already scan this image, and in the past you already have seen this vulnerabilities in the image, which you have already discussed with your security officer, that okay, we are only focused on critical and high vulnerabilities, and we don't care about low and medium. So maybe this kind of an agreement, I'm just making an example. So maybe that the low and the medium can be skipped. So this is already in agreement with your security officer. So in that case, when you're running this whole scan report for the very first time, you will get the holistic list. Once you get the holistic list of critical, high, medium, and low vulnerabilities, you can then just copy those CVEs to the ignore file. And when the next time it is running, what it will do is that when it is publishing the report, there will be no low and medium vulnerabilities that will be detected in the report. So if there is nothing in the report, which is self-understood that, okay, there might be some agreement, or there might be no low medium vulnerabilities in the image. And that is how I'm leveraging the Trivy ignore file. So it's very similar to get ignore file. Okay. Next, I come back to the code repositories. So if I go up and I go to my repositories and I just put in as Trivy, so I get my scan images and ACR using Trivy. So this is the repository which I have, and you will find the exact documentation and everything as a README file there as well. So I version control my blogs as well. So this is exactly the same thing which you are seeing in my blog. You have the Trivy ignore file, the sample file which I have made. You can make use of it. You have the YAML file, the pipeline which I'm going to run. You have the Docker file, and you have the sample index.html, which I am bundling it up with the Nginx image, and then I'm running the Trivy scan on the top of it. Okay. So this is the repository link. Feel free to clone it, fork it, use it to the best, and any feedback is most welcome. As I said, that I'm using Docker, so you see that in my Docker file, it's just like a two-liner. I'm just making sure that I'm downloading an Nginx image, which is basically the operating system is Alpine, and then what I'm doing is in the current directory, I'm just putting it like my HTML file, the sample HTML file, to this particular location. Why I'm putting it this particular location is because when you Nginx is again we all know that it's an ingress controller, and it comes with its own default page, and my HTML page is basically overriding the default page. That's all I'm doing with the Docker file, nothing else. So you can see that the content of my HTML file, it's pretty much simple. It's just displaying a random, my name, nothing else. Then I come to the YAML file. Once here, it's like this is a whole code which I have written, and I will take my time to explain you. So this is my whole code. If you see it, I will explain it in a short while. So let's move to my GitHub, and let's open the YAML file and then we talk about this. Okay. So if you see, my trigger is again set to none, which means that I'm going to run this whole scan. I'm going to run this whole pipeline and scan the images on an ad hoc basis, which means that whenever I feel I can run it manually. There is nothing like somebody is committing something or somebody is creating pull request and then my pipeline is getting triggered. So that is why I've kept it as none. So I'm checking out my self repository. So that is why it is written there. Here I have put together all the things in a variable. So you can of course change it based on your environment. You can change the Docker registry service connection, repositories, and everything. The storage account name and the resource group where the storage account is sitting. You can also change the name of the container inside the storage account. So everything is, I would say that it is used by variables, so that you don't have to actually touch the logic of the whole automation, but you can just replace the values of the variables and then you can run it. And I'm quite sure because I cannot comment on how your environment looks like, but that is why I'm saying that I'm quite sure that if you change the variables, it should work. In case if it is not working or something, please feel free to ping me or write to me, and I'm happy to support you. So then my build agent is again Microsoft hosted agent, which is Ubuntu latest. That is what I have written in line 23, if you see. Then I have one stage, which is build. And then what I'm doing is the next, I'm using the Docker task. You see this one. So this Docker task is basically building and pushing the image to ACR. This is what it is doing. This is why we are using the Docker registry service connection. Okay. Now we move to the next task, which is a command line task. Here, what I'm doing is I'm basically downloading and installing Aquasec Trivy. Now, do remember that this whole snippet, code snippet, it is not developed by me. I simply copied and pasted from the Aquasec Trivy official documentation. They have a very good documentation where how to install Aquasec Trivy in Windows, how to do it in Linux, how to do it in Debian. Everything is very well documented. All I did, I went there, I read it, I understood it, and then just copied it as a command line task. That's all I did. So again, being very honest, I have not developed this. This is again Aquasec Trivy official documentation. Now coming to the next step, which is execute Trivy scan and copy the scan results in artifact staging directory. Uh, these things, it makes my life a little bit helpful because when I'm developing it, I'm thinking a lot. I'm doing troubleshooting, all kind of things. But when I'm ready to write it, I put a lot of comments in my code. You can check it out in my repository because uh, maybe you remember things, but for me it's very important that I get an idea that okay, what this particular task is doing, and that is why I always comment. So here I am basically using the exit code 0 for low and medium vulnerabilities, and this whatever output I'm doing, I'm taking it as a low-medium.txt file. So I'm redirecting the whole output to a text file. Similarly, I'm using exit code 1 for high and critical, and then I'm just redirecting it to the high and critical text file. Okay, and then I'm using the copy command line uh, command, and I'm using recursive, verbose, and force as the parameters, and then I'm taking all the text file which has been generated during the command line, and I'm putting it into the target variable. And this target variable is actually the value of this target variable is the artifact staging directory. Okay, this is what it is doing. Next, I move to the publish artifact task. So this is again, I'm publishing it. I'm publishing the artifacts. Nothing. This is a standard DevOps operation. Then what I'm doing is I'm using the download build artifact task to download it to the artifacts directory, from where basically I'm making a copy, which is my next line, and I'm basically uploading it. So this is how I'm doing this, that I can basically do this. So this is all about my code. that how I'm doing it and everything. Now, if I go back to my blog and if I scroll down a little bit, so you see that uh, I have given a snippet of the Trivy ignore file because right now we were only talking about the code. Now we are talking about the ignore file. Now, when I'm talking about the ignore file, um, so what happens is um, that the first time when you ran the whole scanning, you will get everything, as I said, low, low, medium, high, and critical. And then you just have to just copy this whole, like I copied in the text file, and then you're good. Then you're done. So then all these things, I mean, like, it will be completely ignored. Now, what I have done is I have put the whole list and I have just commented these two. Okay. Because I know that, because I have done this, and as a purpose of demonstration, what I did is I just commented these two because as soon as I comment this, it means that, these will be displayed in the report. So the one which is not commented, it means that you have to ignore. But once which is like you have written, but you have put a hash, which means that you're commenting, which means that, these will not be ignored. So that is why I put it in my documentation so that, you guys can see it. Now, finally, this is how my pipeline looks like. Uh, so this is how my artifacts are being published. I will show you during my demo. And once, so all the text file which I like, redirected my output to a text file, these are uploaded in the artifacts, and then, it's being downloaded. And once it is downloaded, it creates a folder inside the Trivy scan reports container with the date timestamp. And once it is done, then we can just open it and we can look into it that how the vulnerabilities look like. This is how it looks like, uh, to be honest. Um, um, so this is all about my blog. And now what I will do is, since I have explained you everything that what I'm going to do, let's do it in a practical way, which you can see it. Okay, so here, as usual, I have my folder structure in my pipeline directory. You can see it. So I have my build, push, and scan, and this is my version 1, which I appended, and then I am going to run my image. Okay. So first thing is I'm going to just run it. So as you can see that I have I don't have multi-stage pipeline. I have single stage. That is why it is not displaying. So I just have a build stage and nothing else. And what I will do is I'm simply going to run it. But before I run it, let me show you because otherwise, it will not make sense that what is there. Okay. So if you go here in my storage account and if you go to the containers, so this folder has to be there beforehand. Okay, so I'm not creating the folder inside a container. Sorry, this is the container. I'm sorry. So this container in the storage account has to be there before you run it. Okay, because I'm not creating this container during the pipeline. So I'm assuming that this container is there in the storage account, and I'm leveraging this container. And inside this container, I'm creating folder or directory, whatever you want to call it. And then you can see that you have a date and a timestamp. Okay. So of course, before doing the demo, I always try to do a smoke test. That is what I did. So you can see that today is 14th of September 2022, and then underscore is 13, which was 1:1:49 and 30 seconds. At that time, I run it. Okay. And when I go inside it, you can see the files. Now, going back here, why I showed you, because when I'm going to run it, you will see another folder being created with the latest timestamp. Okay, this is one thing. This is why it is very, very important. So now I will go here and I will run the pipeline. So I'll just pause for a bit so that pipeline can run, and then we take it from there.
Arindam, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so in the meantime, if you want, we have a few questions coming up.
Sure.
and a few comments while we are waiting. So
Yeah.
the first comment here from Vipul, which says he's saying we have Defender for Container, which scans image in ACR, and also he is saying then later he's saying that Trivy is Trivy different from it in terms of scanning or approach. So he's
So
saying, so you have Defender for Container, which is a plan of Microsoft 365 to Defender, and
yes.
which scans the image. So is it different from Trivy and this approach that you are showing?
So this is a two-part answer to your thing. Is it Vipul? Hugo, is
Sorry,
the is the user the user who is asking the question? His name is Vipul, right?
Vipo, yeah, yeah.
Yes, okay. So yeah, Vipul, to answer your question, it's like, two ways. One is like, this is an alternative to Microsoft Defender. You can do much more with Trivy. So this is like, one or two examples which I'm seeing. But if you go to the official documentation of Trivy, you can do a lot. You can use templates and you can define in much better way than I mean Microsoft Defender. This is one thing. And the second thing with Microsoft Defender is that Microsoft Defender will only scan the images once the image is being pushed in the ACR. I am also doing the same approach, but with Trivy, you can also do this that before pushing it to the ACR, okay? So in Defender, how it works, you push an image to ACR, and then Defender starts scanning it and finds the vulnerabilities, and then it throws it. Okay, and then it lets you know that okay, this is the problem with the image. This is good. But what happens that if your organization wants that okay, no images should be pushed to ACR before there is no vulnerabilities, which means that you are downloading the image, you're bundling your application, and when you're trying to push it, at that time the scan is running, and if there is any vulnerability, pipeline will fail and the push will not happen to ACR. That is where you can use Trivy. This is the most important part because in Defender, it works like it's the nature of how Azure Defender has been there that after pushing the image to the ACR, then Defender comes into picture and scanning it. But your image is already there in the ACR, and I'm telling you that the ACR is a source of truth because from there, the container apps, AKS, or Docker and web app, these are leveraging those images. So if your ACR, the source of truth, is not secure, then I think it can be a problem, and that is where I feel that Trivy is a little bit better because you can customize this in your own way.
Yeah, I would say just to add to the great explanation anyway, Arindan. But just to add, Vipul, I would say that it's important that you consider as well that, see, security, when it comes to security, security should cover the different stages of your application. So see, for example, here we are talking about doing scans at the build stage when you are building and pushing your image. But remember, for example, if you consider the scenario that you have a given image running in production and you didn't touch the image for several months, in the meantime, you can have known vulnerabilities. And if you don't touch it in the pipeline where you have your scan, if you don't have anything else scanning, possibly you will be staying there in production for several months with your vulnerabilities. So that's where it comes Defender, because Defender will be continuously scanning your containers and the image that's being used to run your applications, and to ensure that proactively you identify the vulnerabilities and you just mitigate them. That's one of the major difference here between this approach on scanning your image in the pipelines and scanning your image when they are running in your containers. Yeah. I'm just going to continue in them
Yeah,
to some more comments. So
sure,
we
sure.
have here Edom saying, fun fact is that Defender for containers is using Trivy under the woods. And Vipul again is asking if it's possible to imitate the exercise in on their own time and in Azure portal. So I assume that the blog that you are sharing contains
Yes.
all the steps that they can replicate to just reproduce what you are doing here, right?
Exactly. So the blog is here, Ripple. The code is here, as I said. So feel free to do it. And that is it. Actually, it is interesting, Hugo. I mean, like to the person who commented that Trivy is being used under the hood and Defender. This has been told to me by many a time, but actually, I didn't find any official documentation or
Saying
anything
that,
where
yeah.
it's saying that. So that is why I'm a bit reluctant in answering this question. So
Yeah,
I have heard it, but I cannot confirm it. So it's like
yeah,
movie sentence. I cannot confirm or deny.
yeah.
So
I would say that I see no problem about, even if they are using, I see no problem, because see,
exactly,
if you have a great product in the market, what is the point for you to go and rebuild the same? It's reinventing the
exactly,
wheel. Here,
exactly,
what Defender is doing, it's pretty much just doing an extension. It's using an existing product in the market, but then using that product in a different way to provide additional things. As I said, the continuous scanning for your
Mhm,
running applications in production using
mhm.
your image and your containers. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right. Happy to continue.
Okay, cool.
All
So
right. Sorry
yeah,
for the the
no,
the,
no,
the
no, no,
interruption. I just
no.
took this moment that you were running the pipeline to just
a-
share some questions there.
Absolutely, Hugo. I mean, like happy
Okay.
to answer to the best of my knowledge. Okay,
Thank you.
so
Yeah.
yes. Um, to ACR. So you see that you can see all the details that how it is doing, uh, how it is pulling, what it is verifying and checksum and downloading it and again pulling it. So every step is recorded out here. So you can go through it. Then this is what my download and install Aquasec Trivy step is doing. Okay. Once it is being done, so you see that it is downloading the latest database and it is then reading and upgrading. It's doing everything here. So this is very, very cool to see that how it is basically reading the databases and unpacking it and using it. Then I'm running the Aquasec Trivy. So here everything, whatever is there, it's running every single thing. Okay. Then once it is done, it is then publishing in the artifacts. Where we can see it in the artifacts, we go here and then you see that it's one published. So if you click on one published, you see that I have put my initials AM, and then inside that you can see the high and the low which has been published. Okay, I go back again. Once I do this, then I download the artifacts. You see that I'm downloading these two files, the critical and the low. So I'm downloading it. Here, I think that I made some changes in the code because it's not updated in my Git, but I will have a close look after my demo. But because this task is not there in my blog, that's what I can see. This is what I realized when I was creating the directory inside the containers, that sometimes the date and the timestamp is not correctly being displayed. And what I'm doing with this task is I'm just changing the time zone and displaying the system date. So that is what I'm doing, so that my date timestamp is not incorrect. This is what I'm doing with this. I think this particular code I did it later, but I will include in my GitHub and in my blog. And then I'm copying it. Once I am running the copy scan reports to blob storage. This is how I'm doing it, and everything is copied. So this is how I'm doing it. Now let's see in the a little bit here. So if I refresh it, you can see now there are two folders. So the second folder 14, 27, 15. So this is the one which got created. Okay. So it happened at 2:27. So this happened. So if I go inside this, now you see that if I go to high and critical, and if you click on edit, you see that you have a very, very well formatted report, which says everything. What is the critical and what is everything. This is completely on the base image vulnerabilities, which is there, which the image which you are using, how vulnerable it is, it will show you everything. Now, if I go to again back to reports, I'm in the same folder. Now, if I go to low and medium, and if I edit, you see that it is 0. Why it is 0? Because it's very simple that if I go to my repos and if I go to my Trivy ignore file, okay, so you see that I have the first two are not commented. Okay, so this is what I was telling you in my blog, that I commented these two because I wanted to display as low and medium. Now since these two are not commented, that is why it has not been shown. Now since I have now written I have myself written it, that's why I know that these two CVE, they fall into low and medium. And when you do it on your environment, I'm sure that you will also be aware of it. So it's very simple. Now what I will do is I will just edit it here, and then I will just put some hash out here into these things, and I will just commit it. I'll update this one. Okay. I am directly committing with my main branch, so I'm not going to create any pull request. I'm closing it. Now what I'm doing is I will simply go here, and once I go here, I will go to all, and I will browse to my folder, build, push, and scan. And what I'm going to do is I'm now going to rerun the pipeline. Okay. Once the pipeline runs, now earlier you saw that in low and medium it's 0, 0, but next time in my next run, uh, uh, I hope that you can see the low and medium as well. So again, I will let the pipeline run in between that. Hugo, if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
No questions so far. We just have a comment from Adam that says it will tell you that the scan was powered by Trivy. So that means when
Okay.
you are getting the outputs, my assumption is when you are getting the outputs from Defender,
Hmm.
it will tell in the outputs, in the logs, that it was powered by Trivy,
Okay,
which
cool,
makes
cool.
sense because
Yeah, it
usually
makes sense. Yeah.
when they use third-party products, they somehow they inform the people about what they are using.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much for the information. Really helpful.
No worries. Apart from that, yeah, we don't have any other comments. But anyway, if you have any questions, feel free to just use the chats. I know that we have some people accessing us from LinkedIn and some people from YouTube, but yeah, feel free to just use the chat and I will try to capture everything.
Okay, so now the pipeline has run completed. Now again, what I'll do is I will just refresh it, and now you see that I have a third folder or directory. So this is my latest one. So I will go inside. I will not open the high and critical because we wanted to see medium and low. And if I am right, then it should show you the two medium one. This is what this is what is the magic of the Trivy ignore, and this is how I have leveraged. Um, to be very honest, I love writing infrastructure as code and automate things, and whenever I feel some use cases, I think through it and I try to make sure that if this automation helps something. But this is a way of showing that how you can leverage ACR, Trivy, and Azure DevOps. Like all automation pipelines and everything. There, as I said, there can be a lot. If you read the documentation is exhaustive, so you can find a lot of other use cases. You can use templates, as I said. You can change the strategy of scanning. For example, like as I said, that you don't have to scan the image after the image has been pushed. You can do it before and just let the pipeline fail and the image not being pushed. That's another way of doing it, where you are actually enforcing the developers that okay, unless and until I get a proper confirmation from security, or we have an agreement, or you understand the risk, till the time it will keep on failing your pipeline. So you're not. So there's a lot of ways of doing this, and this is just like how would I say, an awareness that apart from Defender, also you can use Azure DevOps and automation to achieve this. So again, as I said, I will update my pipeline, but you can still use it. It still runs. It's just that the time zone task is missing. I'm 100% sure now. I will just add it and update it. I will also put it in my blog. But this should not stop you from using the current code, because It will still scan, it will still publish, it will still store you in the container report, even the Trivy ignore file. There is no change. It's just that, sometimes I have seen that the date and timestamp doesn't reflect properly in the container, and that is why I had to include the task where I am forcing using my pipeline task to change my time zone of the build agent so that I can reflect the current date and timestamp. So that is it from my side. So this is again my blog. This is again the my Git repository. Feel free to use it. If you like it, please follow me, my GitHub, my blog, and my LinkedIn and everything. And yeah, I will now stop sharing and I will hand it over.
Okay, can you hear me fine? Can you hear me fine,
Yes,
Arindam?
I can hear.
Yeah.
Yes, I can.
Okay. Okay. Just to be to check because we need to always do this check with you.
Yeah,
Sometimes
yeah, yeah.
using these tools. So we have
Exactly.
another comment from Adam. I hope
Yeah.
I'm pronouncing correctly your name, Adam. I apologize if not, but he pretty much saying that what I have noticed so far with different image scanning engines, they don't do a great way at reporting, tracking KPIs, and etc. And with Defender, it is basically writing custom key QLs, so
Yes.
query custom language. Yeah,
Yeah,
really
it's he's absolutely right,
awesome.
because not everybody is familiar, or not everybody is comfortable writing Kusto query language, KQL.
Yeah,
So the Kusto query language can be very, very exhaustive, and not everybody is using that. I also write it, but I also have my own challenges to be very honest. But yes, I totally agree with
yeah. I would say when it comes to security and scanning tools, there is, to be honest, based at least based on my experience, there is no easy way.
it.
You
Yeah,
always
yeah,
need to do some,
yeah.
or you
Out of
need
the
to
box.
install, you need to do some installation and configuration, or you
Yeah,
need to do some custom queries or custom code to just run things in the way that you expect.
yeah,
Before we just finish, another comment from Adam. Thank you very much. He's basically saying very nice presentation. We're looking forward to get hands dirty today with the lab. And of course, from our sides, I want to thank you all for your availability to be here with us. I hope you enjoyed this session. Don't forget, we have next week another session. So please feel free to just reach to visit our websites and have a look to the session for the next week. In the meantime, thank you everyone. Thank you once again, Arindam, for your contributions and availability to be here. I hope we can see you in the near future again back to Cloud Dungeon Run, and wish you all a great day. Okay,
yeah. Thank you so much, Hugo. See you
thank
guys.
you,
Have a nice day. See you. Ciao, ciao.
thank you.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao.